In this episode of History of Everyday Sayings, you and I will discover the words of the year for 2023 as identified by Merriam-Webster Dictionary and the Oxford Dictionary, the two leading English language dictionaries in the world. Hello and welcome to this special episode of History of Everyday Sayings. I am your host, Stephen Carter, a lifelong lover of words and language. Who is this show for? If you are a logophile, a philomath, or you're someone who simply loves words, language, and history tidbits you can share with friends and family, this show is for you. For many listeners, English is not their first language. We have listeners from more than 50 nations around the world. As challenging as it can be to keep up with changes in word usage and phrases in one's native language, it can be even more difficult to keep current with words and phrase changes in a second or a third language. Like in most languages, new words and phrases do show up in everyday English. There are words and phrases that are common today, but they didn't even exist just a few years ago or even a few months ago. As I record this episode in January of 2024, the two leading English language dictionaries, those being Merriam-Webster and the Oxford English dictionaries, have published their words of the year. Merriam-Webster tends to be more oriented toward English word spellings and usage in the United States, while the Oxford Dictionary tends to be more aligned with British English. Despite the different orientations, both dictionaries share some of the same words as important in 2023, although the two have different Word of the Year selections. Let's begin with the words selected by Merriam-Webster, and then we'll look at those words selected by the Oxford English Dictionary. From Merriam-Webster.com, Word of the Year 2023. That word is authentic, but there are runner-ups to include Rizz, R-I-Z-Z, deepfake, coronation, and other words that defined the year. To quote from the Merriam-Webster site, Merriam-Webster's word of the year for 2023 is authentic, the term for something we're thinking about, writing about, aspiring to, and judging more than ever. This article in Merriam-Webster.com continues, a high-volume lookup in most years, authentic saw a substantial increase in 2023, and they attribute this to the many stories, news articles, YouTube videos, and so forth. Stories, conversations about AI, celebrity culture, identity, and social media. Authentic has a number of meanings, including, quote, not false or imitation. It's a synonym for real and actual, and they tell us true to one's own personality, spirit, or character. Although clearly desirable, authentic is hard to define, and it is subject to debate, they tell us. And for these two reasons, many people turn to the dictionary. Authentic is often connected to identity, and that can be national or personal. Words frequently modified by authentic include cuisine and dish, and also self and voice. Celebrities like singers Lainey Wilson, Sam Smith, and especially Taylor Swift, all made headlines in 2023 with statements about seeking their authentic voice and authentic self. They also point to the rise of artificial intelligence, or AI, and its impact on deepfake videos, the contract for actors, academic honesty, and a variety of other topics. The line between real and fake, well, that has become increasingly blurred, according to Merriam-Webster. How about other words that stood out in the Merriam-Webster Dictionary 2023 data? These include Rizz, R-I-Z-Z, and we'll be returning to this word shortly. According to this article, Rizz is an example of internet-driven slang which shot to the top of searches in September. As a noun, Rizz means romantic appeal or charm. As a verb, it means charm, or it means to charm or to be attractive. It's frequently considered a play on charisma, but there are a number of young YouTubers who would tell you that Rizz has a definition all on its own. Other words include deepfake, coronation, and that, of course, comes from the coronation of King Charles III, and that spiked in May. Coronation refers to the literal act of placing a crown on a monarch's head. It is a synonym for crowning. Another word that hit the top of the search world, dystopian. Dystopian. Dystopian gets applied not only to frightening real-world issues, but also to entertaining fictional issues. Video games, books, movies depict a dark potential future that typifies the imagined world or society that dystopian so often calls to mind. How about this word, EGOT? E-G-O-T, EGOT. EGOT was first used in 1984 and was added to our dictionary in 2019. What is the origin of EGOT? Well, it is someone who has achieved, someone who has won 4 prestigious awards to include an Emmy, a Grammy, the Oscar, and a Tony. The word is made up of the first letters of each of those awards. So, can EGOT be a verb? Well, not currently, at least not in the dictionary. They don't currently enter EGOT as a verb in the dictionary, but perhaps this usage will catch on. And this goes to the reality that language is living. We have a true living language, and it can change over years, even over months, and sometimes even over weeks. Doppelganger, well, that made the list, as did a number of other words. To read the entire article, where all of the words are identified, you'll find that at Merriam, Merriam Webster.com, and of course that will be linked in the show notes. So, how about the Oxford Word and Words of the Year? The Oxford Dictionary's 2023 Word of the Year is, drum roll please, Rizz, R-I-Z-Z, and they tell us here on this site, and in this article, they tell us the word means style, charm, or attractiveness, the ability to attract a romantic or sexual partner. In this article posted in Smithsonian Magazine's online, that's smithsonianmag.com, they tell us Rizz beat out a slew of other popular words, including Swiftie, which is a shorthand for fans of Taylor Swift, and situationship. Situationship. Who knew that was a word? That word defines a romantic, or we'll call it personal, relationship that's not established or formal. Going back to Rizz, this resource tells us the term first arose from gaming and internet culture with YouTube and Twitch streamer Kai Cenat, and he spells that Kaicenat. He popularized the word in 2021, according to USA Today's Oliver Munson. The word got even more attention in June when English actor Tom Holland told BuzzFeed, "I have no Rizz whatsoever. I have limited Rizz." From there, usage of Rizz continued to skyrocket, with Oxford lexicologists estimating a 15-fold increase year over year. Rizz is unusual in that it comes from the middle of charisma. Most abbreviated versions of words come from the beginning or the end of words, like rhino from rhinoceros or hood from neighborhood. Though there are some shortened phrases that do come from the middle, like fridge from refrigerator, although this is less common according to Oxford. So how did these words get selected? Well, it looks like for the Merriam-Webster site, it was simply a numbers game. The words that got the most hits on their website were the ones that finished at the top of the heap. The Oxford English Dictionary took a little bit of a different approach. To determine this year's winners, the team created a list of terms that surged in popularity throughout the year. Then they invited the public to weigh in and vote on matchups like Swiftie versus de-influencing, Rizz versus beige flag, prompt versus heat dome, and other pairings. There were roughly 30,000 people who voted to narrow down the list, and from that list, the Oxford's team picked the winner. Last year's word was goblin mode, Goblin, goblin mode, which describes a type of behavior which is unapologetically self-indulgent, lazy, slovenly, or greedy, typically in a way that rejects social norms or expectations. Some of their other words, beige flag, that is a noun. It's a character trait that indicates that a partner or potential partner is boring or lacks originality. How about de-influencing? That is the practice of discouraging consumers from buying specific products or encouraging them to reduce their consumption of material goods. Heat dome. Heat dome. And that is a persistent high-pressure weather system over a given geographic area, which traps a mass of hot air below it. How about parasocial? Designating a relationship characterized by the one-sided relationship between a fan and a celebrity, in which the fan feels like they know the celebrity as a friend. More information on the SmithsonianMag.com website. Again, this site, along with the Merriam-Webster site, you'll find those listed in the show notes. So what are some of your favorite words from 2023 or even previous years? And what do you think the hot words will be in 2024? If you would like to share your thoughts, email me at cartermethod@gmail.com, cartermethod@gmail.com, and perhaps I will share some of your favorite words or your predictions in a future episode. If you are not yet following the History of Everyday Sayings where you get your podcasts, this is a perfect time to follow the show. When you follow, you will never, ever, ever miss an episode. To listen to previous episodes of this and other podcasts that are part of the Stress Relief Radio Network, visit us at stressreliefradio.com. Again, if you would like to be in touch, I would love to hear from you. Email me at cartermethod@gmail.com. Until our next visit together, this is your host, Steve Carter, wishing for you and your loved ones blessings in abundance.